Bit of a disclaimer right off the top, this video is going to contain discussions around non-consensual sexual themes. Everything I say in this video is completely based on my own assessment of the allegations levied against the YouTuber Anthpo, which at the time of this recording is all alleged and have not been confirmed by the police or any other authority. This is not legal advice. I am not a lawyer. I do not know anything valuable about the law or legal practices. Clearly. This video will be very cringe, and it's not because of all the furries involved, it's because of one furry, and that furry is...
Hey lovely people, it's Anthpo. The past year since I had quit YouTube, I've done two things. Worked for Mr. Beast, and two, roleplay as a furry for 200 days. Now, in my quest to fully commit to the bit, the first thing I attended was a no-clothes party.
So I make my way upstairs with this random person that I had just met.
This wasn't supposed to be real. This was fake. It was dumb.
They said I could enter as long as I took my clothes off.
I wanted this, and I'm like, oh.
Do I commit to the bit and get naked with a bunch of furries?
I was pretty nervous that what I was going to see next was going to permanently be etched into my brain.
Of course I left. Nah, I'm just kidding, I got naked.
So after taking a year away from YouTube, YouTuber Anthpo uploads his comeback video. I spent 200 days undercover as a furry, in which he spends 200 days becoming a furry. He goes to a furry convention, and then he allegedly secretly films and participates in a real furry orgy, in which then he takes the footage and uploads it to his 1.7 million subscriber YouTube channel. And now obviously people are accusing him of being a sex criminal, because if what he did was actually secretly filmed, then that is extremely criminal, allegedly, in my opinion. Anthony, you were supposed to make a comeback video, not a comeback video. Now this might sound like some sort of gotcha, or I'm taking things out of context, and I wish I could say that I was. His comments are flooded with people who are just generally disgusted by the video. There's a few fairly popular Twitter threads from upset people, a few popular Reddit posts, and even multiple posts on his subreddit from his own fans. And I'm not a furry, I'm not pretending to be a furry, but today I stand in solidarity with the furries, because this is some Logan Paul Suicide Forest level content brain. As of recording this video, it's been a week since Anthpo uploaded the furry video, and in response to the backlash, he has since deleted one of the most poorly aged tweets I've ever seen in my life. Like, oh my god, could you make a more poorly aged tweet in a lab? I don't think so. He then cut the 2 minutes from the video that contained the two orgies. Yes, there's actually two orgies, which I have the original footage, and I'm going to show you as much as I realistically can and what is appropriate. The video was then age restricted, and then Anthpo posted an apology to his Twitter. But the fact that he deleted the two from the original video doesn't really help him in this case, because allegedly secretly recording people having a sexual encounter is already super illegal. Posting it is separately illegal. That's an entirely different alleged crime. Plus, the video was up for 2 whole days before he cut that section out, and at that point, presumably, the damage had already been done to the alleged victims. In general, his fans seem pretty receptive to the apology, but I'm not so convinced. For example, in his apology, he says, "I did not film audio or video of anything sexual, just cuddling," which directly contradicts what he said and what we witnessed in the original video, allegedly, in my opinion.
There's a person straddled to his leg in underwear, thrusting.
And I don't know about you, but a person straddled to his leg in their underwear thrusting sounds sexual to me. So I can't really take him at his word when he's very obviously contradicting himself here, allegedly, in my opinion. I personally think that since the footage is now deleted, I think he's banking on the hope that people won't remember the details and take what he says at face value. But in my opinion, the apology is clearly very strategic, misleading, and at some points just an outright lie. And there's also a bunch of other weird shit here that isn't being addressed and not a lot of people are talking about.
Now, I can't really show a lot of this on YouTube. In fact, I'm pretty sure this video is demonetized already.
There's a lot more I want to say about the apology, but I think it's important that we first take a look at the allegations and the evidence, and then we can see how much of this apology actually holds up. And again, I'm not a furry, I'm not trying to steal furry valor, but even I can tell this situation is rough. In the beginning of the video, Anthpo outlines his plan to go to a furry convention and prove the existence of what he refers to as furry parties.
I want to talk about furry parties. Furries getting in a room at conventions and exploring each other's bodies.
Now, right from the jump, the premise already seems odd, right? Like, do you need to be there to physically witness this orgy with your own eyes? Smell it with your own nose? I mean, yes, furries are a bit of a meme, but at the core of it, these are grown adults doing grown adult things in private. But that's the entire premise. Anthpo is going to an orgy. He then goes on to don the fursona Sigma Paws, who is just a furry that is, you know, kind of obnoxious and screeches a lot and is generally kind of cringe.
Stop hating on furries. I can do black diamonds. You can't. Whoever sent me the severed pig head. Fuck.
My entire life I was bullied. Nobody loved me for who I was, so I became somebody that I wasn't.
I got what I wanted!
It's well known, especially if you're going to spend a year of your life making videos about furries, that a large portion of furries are neurodivergent.
A good chunk of furries also have some sort of neurodivergence.
I'm kind of on the spectrum, have what they call Asperger's, and this has been a great gateway for me.
Do you think a lot of people in the community face similar challenges?
Yes.
So making cringe content about a furry like getting bullied and being super annoying, it just feels like we're towing a line that we probably shouldn't be, you know? Like, it feels like we're just making a caricature of an autistic person. But, you know, whatever you want to say about that, he definitely succeeded in being cringe.
I got posted on cringe subreddits all the time.
Anthpo spends roughly 4 months making content as his persona Sigma Paws on TikTok as a way to like legitimize himself within the furry community, and then he goes with YouTuber Ben of the Week and cameraman to Anthro New England, a furry convention in Boston, Massachusetts. From there, his plan is to use the Sigma Paws identity to essentially riz his way into like an orgy situation by meeting a bunch of people and sending a bunch of DMs constantly, just fishing for an orgy, basically.
I'd been making tons of friends throughout the convention and DMing them constantly. And I was getting hit on a decent amount, so I thought one of these would lead into a furry party.
Now, he only shows a couple screenshots in the video of him flirting, and they're a pretty quick cut in the video, but I think they're worth pausing and analyzing. The first one is pretty tame. How's your even going? Heart, it's going good. Could be better. Okay, so he's obviously flirting, leading into something. Either way, my hole is open for you, and I can guarantee there is no risks at the con. I am very caring Durg at heart. Not sure what Durg it means. You're so sweet. Heart, Anthpo replies. I'm gonna hit the sack tonight. You're sweet though. I hope you have a great rest of your night. I'll hit you up tomorrow. Ooh, 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 ooh. These conversations sort of imply that there was more of a conversation that led up to this, right? And based on this, it looks to me like he's leading people on and letting them think that he's romantically interested in them, when in reality, we know he's just using them for content. He wants to film an orgy for YouTube. He's sexually manipulating them for content, allegedly, in my opinion. Which is sort of just kind of degrading sociopath behavior, in my opinion. In fact, I'd be interested in seeing all the other conversations he had with people, since he claims he was DMing constantly. There's bound to be more of these out there, I'm sure. Allegedly, in my opinion. Anyway, after a few days of flirting, his fursona doesn't seem to be putting any of the other furries in heat, so he decides to distribute some cards he made with his info on it, just straight up soliciting himself for an orgy, which actually ends up working.
Printed these on Staples?
Yeah, I had to walk in.
What the fuck?
Phone number on the back too.
I'd printed 250 of each of these cards, and my plan was to distribute them throughout the convention. And just like that, I was added, it's real, to the chat.
And this is the part where things go from like, you know, silly YouTuber doing like annoying things in public, oh, look at me, I'm so cringe, to voyeuristic, like sex pest behavior. But I guess we should have expected this one, right?
People are honestly trying to make amends for their previous actions. I think we should let them. If people are trying to contribute positively to society, even though they've made a blunder in the past, they should be able.
He then finds himself in several orgy chat rooms and is surprised to find them using these chat rooms to plan orgies.
Please fuck. Also, please fuck.
He just posted his full cock in the chat, okay?
Holy shit, I cuddle so much. Here's a photo of my wiener.
If everyone's all right with it, I wouldn't mind recording a few parts too.
And I think it's worth mentioning here as well that like the furry community is mostly LGBTQ people, a lot of gay men. LGBTQ people create these spaces so that they can feel comfortable and safe to express themselves, and Anthpo is essentially just taking this and showing it to the entire world, which is really shitty and up, in my opinion. Now, everything you see in this next section is the section that Anthpo cut from the original video. But unfortunately for Anthpo, and fortunately for you, my fursona is actually an elephant, being that I never forget, because obviously I downloaded the footage as soon as I saw it.
The first thing I attended was a no clothes party, for lack of a better term. Now, I begrudgingly went to the hotel room where this was happening. The hotel room that is, by the way, in the exact same hotel as the convention itself, and was immediately greeted with a big schlong.
Hi. Is this the news video? Is that right?
Literally, I just told them my name was Sigma, and they said I could enter as long as I took my clothes off. Now, I had a choice here. Do I commit to the bit and get naked with a bunch of furries, or do I say, I did it, I proved the existence of these things, I can leave now? Of course I left. No, I'm just kidding, I got naked.
I got the inversion of Telegram.
Wait, what's your name?
You can call me Sigma.
Everyone is completely naked. There's maybe 2 people in their fursuits. So I like awkwardly get directly in the center of the bed, and I'm sandwiched in between like 4 people on either side. And I am naked, by the way, so this is already like way past what I was expecting to do.
But even though the first orgy is primarily audio, recording that audio in secret would still be a crime, allegedly in my opinion, considering Massachusetts is a 2-party consent state, which means that everybody involved in the recording needs to be aware that the recording is happening. But obviously separate from the legal stuff, in such an intimate setting, it's just a huge, weird violation of privacy for everyone involved, allegedly in my opinion. But he of course has not confirmed nor denied if he got consent. Something else I find interesting about this whole audio segment is right at the beginning of the audio segment, before the animation, Anthony includes this pixelated video from right before he's let into the hotel room.
And was immediately greeted with a big schlong.
So even though we have not seen any footage of this orgy, chances are, if he was allegedly recording video at the start of the orgy, there's like a non-zero chance that he has other footage of this orgy on his hard drive, which, if true, would also be highly illegal, allegedly in my opinion. And this isn't even the one that people are outraged about. Obviously, if there is some sort of criminal case against him, these videos will be found, but I have no real evidence for that. Purely speculation. Seems plausible though. Anyway, according to Anthpo, nothing really happens here. Everyone's sort of just like hanging out on the bed naked while like petting each other and talking, and then someone invites Anthpo to another proper bona fide orgy.
Then the person sitting next to me mentioned that there was a bona fide furry party happening the floor above us. I took the person up on their offer and went to the bona fide furry party. So I make my way upstairs with this like random person that I had just met.
Yeah, I want to see like
I was pretty nervous that what I was going to see next was going to permanently be etched into my brain.
So he arrives at the second orgy. I can't even believe that we're having this conversation right now. I've said orgy like 20 times in this video. At this point, I think based purely on the way that he's holding the camera, it's clear to me that these people are allegedly not aware that he's filming. The camera is down by his side, it's moving around a lot, he's not really fully pointing at anybody. Like, this visual language is the visual language that someone would create when they're trying to hide a camera. He starts off the segment by insulting the dude that lets him in.
There was a guy who I can only describe as like Discord mod, who was kind of like the head honcho in this whole thing. He greeted us and was basically like, hey, let's do this thing.
He then goes on to describe and show a person who's laying on the bed who's wearing a fursuit.
And we walk into the room.
And he's in a fursuit. There's a person straddled to his leg in underwear, thrusting.
After I got into my underwear, I joined the fray.
And from what I've come to understand, and if Anthony did like a shred of due diligence before like engaging in this whole endeavor, is that these fursuits are all handmade and they're highly, highly customized to the user. So at a convention where everyone is wearing something completely unique in a community that is super tight-knit, if Anthpo is describing what fursuit they're wearing and what it looks like, then they're very easily identifiable within their community, right? Allegedly, in my opinion. Now imagine you're this person and everyone in your community and potentially people in your personal life know what you're up to. And then Anthpo, with consent, might I add, while wearing his underwear, mounts the furry who's laying on the bed.
I think this guy wants you to jump on him.
That leg? I just... You believe in love?
And this part, I kind of barely even really know what to say about it, honestly. I know he's joking around for the camera by saying this, right? He's joking with the audience.
You believe in love?
But that stranger that he's laying on presumably thinks that he's trying to be sexual, right? But in reality, Anthpo is sort of just like mocking them to their face while he's straddling their leg in his underwear while allegedly secretly filming this interaction for content. This is what a true clout demon looks like when they're committing like demonic acts.
You believe in love?
I got what I wanted!
I think it's important to point out that even though Anthpo did blur a lot of the footage, he didn't blur nearly enough. In fact, in one of the clips Anthpo posted, there's a person who is allegedly wearing nothing but their underwear and appears to be on the bed, engaged in some sort of sexual activity with the person in the fursuit, allegedly in my opinion, which was left completely uncensored by Anthpo in the original footage. So that combined with the person he filmed in the bed when he first entered the room means that there's at least 2 clips of people allegedly engaging in sexual activity that he allegedly secretly filmed, and those are just the ones that we know of. And we don't even really know the extent of what's on Anthpo's hard drive. He then finds an excuse to leave, goes back to his hotel room, and then shares the presumably uncensored footage with Ben.
Now, I didn't want to go the full length with any of these furries, so I was kind of just waiting for the perfect opportunity to leave.
I got a strap on. Does anybody want to try it?
So I pretended to get a call from my roommate and then just left. Seeing Ben after that hour and a half made me feel like I was deployed in Vietnam and I was getting to see my wife after returning home.
I just know it smelled f***ing crazy in there.
Now, there's a bunch of laws that people are claiming he's broken here, and I'm going to have to read from my document for this next part. I am not a legal expert, nor do I know anything valuable about laws or the legal system, and this should not be taken as legal advice, but I do know how to Google things. And here are a few laws that would make Anthpo an actual criminal if he really did film this stuff without consent, allegedly in my opinion. And let's just read this assuming he didn't get consent for these recordings so we can really see what he's up against. Here we have from the Massachusetts government website, Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 272, Section 105, Unlawful Surveillance. Whoever willfully photographs, videotapes, or electronically surveys another person who is nude or partially nude, check, with the intent to secretly conduct or hide such activity, check, when the other person in such place and circumstance would have a reasonable expectation of privacy and not being photographed, videotaped, or electronically surveyed, check, they were in a hotel room, and without that person's knowledge and consent, check, shall be punished by imprisonment in the House of Correction for not more than 21.5 years or by a fine of not more than $5,000 or by both, allegedly in my opinion. It could also be a federal crime according to the Video Voyeurism Prevention Act of 2004, allegedly in my opinion. And like I said before, Massachusetts is a 2-party consent state, which basically means that if he doesn't have consent to record, it is allegedly, in my opinion, very, very illegal, and he could be on the hook just for the audio of the first orgy, allegedly, in my opinion. So to break it all down, if he allegedly did not get consent to record either one of these furry parties, and just one person wanted to go after just one of these criminal charges, he could very easily be facing jail time, allegedly, in my opinion, regardless of the fact that he deleted the video. And just based on the videos he posted, there's something like 10 to 13 alleged victims that could draw from any one of these charges, or multiple charges, allegedly, in my opinion. Basically, what I'm saying is, Anthony, I think you really screwed the pooch on this one. The next day, he once again dons his fursona main character pause and crashes the dance competition right before the first dancer is supposed to go up.
The name of our first competitor. Are we ready to start this competition? This is not part of the competition. This is, I'm gonna ask you to have to go back and hi. I'm gonna ask that that never happens again, although that was kind of funny to watch.
I'm too hungover for this. Was that a bit?
And that is basically the whole video, but that's not everything that's wrong with the video. At one point in the video, he goes to buy an adult furry comic, and then he makes this big point and goes on this big tangent about how children shouldn't be exposed to adult merchandise.
I did find a bunch of furry smut magazines. Now, the weird part about this is that this is completely in the center of the expo hall. Like, you could just wander in here if you're like an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old, and they didn't even check for my ID when I purchased it.
A little higher.
And this is a fair point, you know, to be concerned about the children. Except, if he just spent like 5 minutes on Google before insinuating these heinous things about these random people, he would see that the event has 2 separate badges for minors and adults, and a whole extensive verification process to make sure that minors can basically not do anything without adult supervision. It took me like 2 seconds of Googling to find this, and it took you 200 days to make this video, and somehow you still fucked it up. Also, there's nothing on this table that's censored in your own YouTube video, so how bad can it be? Like, What are you complaining about? You sound like a boomer. Yet he will go out of his way to censor these anime girl tapestries, which makes it seem like there's just open nudity at this event. When in reality, I was able to find the artist that made these images, and not only is there no nudity, but it's not even furry art. I mean, this is just standard stuff you would see at any comic or anime convention. He then takes the comic back to his hotel room and is surprised to find that the gay furry porn he bought has gay furry porn in it.
I purchased it.
Oh, it's a fanboy. It was a guy. It was a guy.
Yo, there's dicks in it, bro. There's gay furry porn in my gay furry porn, guys. Yo. Bro, it's gay. Bro, it's gay. Bro, the dicks in there. There's gay stuff at 3 a.m., guys. There's gay furry porn in my furry porn.
Like, get real, dude. I guess this just bothers me so much because it seems so disingenuous and so lazy to insinuate that these random strangers are perverts and pedophiles.
Hey cutie, love the videos.
I'm not allowed near schools.
When you yourself spent 200 days planning, 7 hours driving, thousands of dollars, I imagine, spending to seek out and film furry orgies for content, then post it to YouTube, a website full of unregulated minors, to your audience that seems very young. At one point, Anthpo pulls out 2 packs of business cards, one for soliciting himself to an orgy and the other for inviting people to an orgy.
I had printed 250 of each of these cards, and my plan was to distribute them throughout the convention. When I found somebody that I thought would fit the bill of being in these furry parties, I was just gonna give it to them and be like, hey, let me know.
So I guess my question is, if Anthpo didn't know that the badges indicated whether or not someone was an adult or a minor, how would he know if he was handing out these orgy cards to an adult or a minor? I mean, he didn't mention anything about asking for ID, and he left one right on the table in the middle of the expo hall.
This is completely in the center of the expo hall. Like, you could just wander in here if you're like an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old.
And what exactly do you mean when you say you're looking for people that would attend a furry orgy? Do they look like this?
I got what I wanted!
You believe in love?
But this irony seems to be completely lost on Anthpo, and throughout the video, all the way up until the orgy, you get a real sense for the cognitive dissonance that's going on in his brain between him mocking these people for these stereotypes, but also him unironically doing all of these stereotypes at the same time. Please just bear with me for a second while I make this point. So we all agree that right from the start, the message was clear.
Furry parties. Furries getting in a room and exploring each other's bodies. Furry parties. Getting into one of these furry parties. Furry parties.
Party.
Furry party.
Furry party?
Furry parties.
Free party. Furry parties.
Furry party. Furry parties. Naked fur. 5 furry parties. Furry party. 2 hours until the furry party.
A huge furry.
Only about 30 minutes until the party. A no clothes party. And I am naked, by the way. Bonafide furry party. We walk into the room. I join the fray.
You believe in love?
I got what I wanted!
Attending a furry orgy is the main point of this video. It is the entire thrust of the narrative. It is the wind under this video's wings. He is attending an orgy. That's what he's doing. It's even in the thumbnail. But every time he makes a tangible step towards his goal, his actions no longer match his words. He acts like it's some sort of ironic bit, but we all know that he's unironically trying to get to a furry orgy, and he does go to one.
In my quest to fully commit to the bit, I would work in it, I would go places in it.
A pretty consistent fan base.
I took a 7-hour drive up to the furry. I had 2 people helping me with this whole thing.
Hired to run the Furry of the Week section of Furry Week.
Prepared a full choreographed dance, as well as my own song. On this, people would also want to get naked with me, I think. Jokes aside, this had a bit. A really dumb bit.
But I put one down kind of as a joke. Just like that, I was added
It's real.
to the chat.
What have you done?
Business cards. Like, this wasn't supposed to be real. This was fake. It was dumb. It was a stupid thing. I wanted this, and I'm like, oh.
Now, I begrudgingly went to the hotel room with Schlong. Do I commit to the bit and get naked with a bunch of furries? 4 people on either side, and I am naked.
In my quest to fully commit to the bit,
I took the person up on their offer and went to the bona fide furry party.
You believe in love?
I got what I wanted!
So what is the bit exactly? Well, the bit is that furries are cringe perverts. You know, he's playing a furry, he's being cringe, he's doing perverted things. Like, that's the whole bit. And yet Anthpo went to a literal furry orgy and still somehow managed to be the most perverted, cringe person there. Wow. Imagine for a second that Anthpo went to an anime expo disguised as a cosplayer instead, and he said all weebs are pedophiles. Then he hunted down and filmed an orgy at the convention and posted it to his 1.7 million subscribers. But I think Anthpo picked the furries because he knew that they were often made fun of and figured he wouldn't get as much backlash for harassing them.
Making fun of people is fine, but bullying people is different.
Ultimately, he entered a primarily queer space and dehumanized these people, using them as props for his content.
I'll rate the furry community a solid 8 out of 10.
There's so much more that I could talk about in regards to this video, but it's already way too long, so let's just see what Anthony thinks about all this. In his apology, he writes, "I want to clear up some misconceptions about the furry video. I removed 2 minutes from the video after speaking to one of the people involved, and they asked to be removed." So on one hand, it's good that he cut it out, obviously, but it is still allegedly a crime if nobody consented. If somebody's complaining about the video, that sort of implies that he didn't have consent to film this, right? Allegedly, in my opinion. They didn't want the situation to become a huge deal for their sake. I'm trying to avoid doing more damage than I've already done. Something tells me that the complaint isn't the only reason why you took that part out. I did not film audio or video of anything sexual, just cuddling. Well, as we already know, that directly contradicts what we saw and what he says in the original clip. Allegedly, in my opinion.
There's a person straddled to his leg in underwear, thrusting.
I'm not here to defend myself, just wanted to clarify. All audio was remade. Now this line is interesting because it seems like he's trying to separate himself from the recording of the audio, allegedly in my opinion. What does it mean that the audio was remade? Like, are you saying that the first orgy was fake and completely made up? If we watch the video of the second orgy, all the sound is clearly syncing up with all the people moving around the room.
I think this guy wants you to jump on him.
Which that leg? I just.
So it's not like he recorded it on mute and then recreated the audio in post. Like, the audio, in my opinion, was clearly recorded on location, right? So maybe by saying that all the audio was remade, he's saying that it was all altered so you couldn't sense any of their identities. Well, legally speaking, if he allegedly recorded without consent, that wouldn't matter because he would still have the recording on his hard drive. It doesn't really matter if he altered it after the fact, allegedly in my opinion. Recording was mentioned beforehand. Now this is obviously the most important part of the apology. He's addressing the main question everyone has, which is, did you have consent to film this? But instead of being explicit and saying, I had permission, or yes, I had consent, or whatever, he says, recording was mentioned beforehand, which to me just seems intentionally vague, allegedly in my opinion. Like, who mentioned the recording and who was it mentioned to? Was it mentioned in all scenarios? And also, if it was consensual, why take so long to come out and say something when you could have just said it was consensual from the beginning and end this controversy before it even started? A phone was visibly set up in the room. Well, obviously, just because a phone is visible doesn't necessarily imply that everyone consented or that people were even aware that it was there or that it was filming. Just because the phone is there does not imply consent, allegedly in my opinion. These three statements, the audio was remade, the recording was mentioned beforehand, and a phone was visibly set up in the room, are the only parts that actually address the allegations, and they're super vague and not explicit at all, in my opinion. And also, in my opinion, it's written like this to make the viewer feel like he's taking responsibility, when in reality, if he actually did not allegedly film without consent, then he would be allegedly admitting to an alleged crime. He can't take responsibility for real, allegedly in my opinion. Everything was heavily blurred entirely. In this shot where we see the bed, where someone is allegedly thrusting, in Anthpo's words, this is the only portion of the screen that was blurred by Anthpo. Everything else I've blurred after the fact. I had spoken to lawyers and checks were done by YouTube. Well, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and guess that the lawyers probably contacted after the video was uploaded. Otherwise, I just don't see any way this video would have been uploaded in its current form. Here he says that what he did was horrible, but he doesn't actually acknowledge what he did at any point during this apology. And acknowledging what you did, to me at least, feels like the key point of an apology, right? I'm so disappointed in myself, and I'm so sorry to those specifically involved and those who feel betrayed. For those criticizing me for perpetuating stereotypes amongst the furry community, I want to apologize and emphasize that that wasn't my goal in any capacity. This part of the apology makes no sense to me at all, because even in the video that's still up, like, that is the premise. Like, dude, what the fuck? What are you talking about? I feel like you're gaslighting me right now. That was the entire thrust of your video, pun intended. I greatly appreciate those of you who reached out with genuine concern. I turned the video into a fundraiser for the Trevor Project. Very nice. And obviously, this isn't my apology to accept, but in my opinion, this feels a lot more like damage control than an actual apology. So, Anthony, I imagine you don't want to implicate yourself in a crime, an alleged crime. So I understand why you might not want to be straightforward in your response. But, you know, I'd like to believe that you're sorry and that you didn't intend any harm, but I'm just really not seeing any of that here. I don't think that you are equipped to have these conversations. I don't think you're equipped to be making these kinds of videos. At the very least, you need to get yourself a producer that you trust who can help you do things legally and ethically. And hell, you might even be able to just film an orgy if that's like really what you wanted to do. Since you've already apologized, I don't really see a reason why this video still needs to be online. So I think you should take it down, and I think you should just donate to the Trevor Project directly. I'm going to leave you with the audience with this clip that Anthpo edited into the start of the furry video. And, you know, it's supposed to be a bit, but, you know, with Anthony, it's kind of hard to tell if it's a bit or not. Anyway, thanks for watching, and, I don't know. This is interesting. Ugh, fuck.
I'd like to apologize in advance to my friends and to my family and to YouTube and to literally anybody who happens to watch this video. It's the craziest, I'm sorry.